Welcome all our viewers across the world. CGTN correspondent Shane Hahm with you here at the 5th annual Seoul Kimchi Festival here in Seoul, South Korea. I want to give our viewers just a little bit of information on why I'm standing here. Again, like I said, it's the 5th annual Seoul Kimchi Festival. Anything and everything that you wanted to know about the South Korean national dish will be on display here for the next 3 days. Where I'm standing right now currently is Seoul Square or Seoul Plaza, smack dab in the heart of the South Korean capital of Seoul. If you've ever been here before, this is located in the heart of the city, and I wish I could describe really the smell that you can really get to here. And what you're looking at here is the process of making kimchi, and that's why we're all here. So I want to again welcome our viewers across the world joining us on our various CGTN platforms. What you're looking at is the process of making kimchi, the South Korean national dish. So what we're going to expect here at the 5th annual Seoul Kimchi Festival over the next 3 days, up to 6,000 people have registered to take part in this kimchi making exhibition. 6,000 people. The goal is to make up to 165 tons of this South Korean staple. Now that would be a record. The highlight of this festival is this kimchi making process, and on Sunday the goal is to break the Guinness Book of World Records for the most number of people making kimchi. So again, if you're just joining us here, Shane Hahm with you at the 5th annual Seoul Kimchi Festival here in Seoul, South Korea. Today we have about 3,000 people here in Seoul Square taking part in this process of making kimchi. So if you're not familiar with this South Korean dish, I want to clue our viewers in on exactly what is going on here. So again, show our viewers here what is going on. So you'll see that there are many different types of kimchis out there, hundreds in fact. The most popular, of course, made with this Napa cabbage that's grown here in Asia and in South Korea. So what you're seeing these volunteers do, these participants, what they are doing is these cabbages have been brined in salt beforehand. That's to give it that pickling taste. And from there, what happens is inside every single leaf here, you put what you call the innards of the kimchi. And inside this kimchi, you have ingredients like chili powder, you have scallions, garlic, ginger, fish sauce. All that is made beforehand. And join me as I walk along here, just to give you an idea of how many people there are here. But all that is mixed into the leaves of the kimchi that is made. And what happens is the fermentation process is probably the most important. So I'm going to head over this way, or there's a little more room. You can see the cabbage here has been brined in salt beforehand, and that's one of the most important processes necessary to make this South Korean side dish. So once the innards, the chili peppers and the radishes and the scallions, the ginger, the garlic, all mixed up, is put into the leaves of the cabbage, what you'll see right there is they are packed into these styrofoam boxes, and that's when the fermentation process begins. And fermentation is really the tanginess and the saltiness and the pickled nature of this South Korean staple is where that taste comes from. So again, if you're just joining us, we're here in Seoul Plaza, Seoul Square here in the South Korean capital of Seoul for the 5th annual Kimchi Festival. And again, for the next 3 days, we're going to expect up to 6,000 people. The goal is to make up to 165 tons of South Korean kimchi, and this kimchi will be distributed to the underprivileged and people in need. And the reason this festival is taking place at this time is because the process of making kimchi is known as gimjang, and that is the process. And here's a little tidbit for you. Gimjang is actually on the UNESCO Intangible Cultural List ever since 2013. This is a very important cultural activity, you can call it, for South Koreans right around this time of the year, just before the winter season. What we see is families and communities traditionally getting together, just like we're seeing here in Seoul Plaza, get together and make this process. So it's a very communal activity of making this dish, this side dish here. And what happens is this kimchi that's made in this process of gimjang is stored underground, traditionally in earthenware pots. In more modern times, what we have are, if you've ever been to inside a South Korean home, you'll notice that a lot of households here will have two types of refrigerators. The reason for that is there's a specific temperature that kimchi needs to be fermented in to get that that popular pungent taste that kimchi is known for, because households here have kimchi refrigerators, believe it or not, and that's where the fermentation process will take place here at this festival. This kimchi will be placed in these styrofoam boxes to be later distributed to the underprivileged here. So again, like I mentioned, the process of making kimchi is on the UNESCO Intangible Cultural List as of 2013. So the process, what you're seeing here is this pre-brined in salt Napa cabbage that's mixed in with the really the garnishes, and inside that garnish is really what it gives it that pungency and that distinct kimchi taste to it. And I mentioned before, there are this cabbage kimchi is probably the most popular, but there are hundreds of types of kimchis. Really, anything that's fermented. For example, you can have cucumber kimchi, onion kimchi, garlic kimchi. You have the spicy type, but you also have non-spicy kimchi variants as well. So again, I'm here in Seoul Plaza for the 5th annual Seoul Kimchi Festival. If any of our viewers will be in South Korea over the weekend here in Seoul, hop on over to Seoul Plaza here, right in front of Seoul City Hall, where this festival will be taking place. I really wish we could describe the smell that's really stimulating the olfactory senses here. Let's go around. I want to show you just how large this is for our viewers. We can head over this way. Careful for our camera operator here. Again, up to 6,000 people are expected to gather here at Seoul Plaza over the next 3 days. The goal is to create up to 165 tons of this South Korean staple, this side dish, that'll be distributed to the underprivileged. Again, this winter season, the winter season is soon upon us, is when kimchi is often made to last through the winter months here. And for visitors that come here to this festival, it's not only this kimchi making activity that you can see, but there are other exhibits and displays that are here for visitors that you can see. There's a kimchi museum where you can see over 100 types of kimchis on display. You have artisans of the dish making this dish with variants. There will be kimchi cooking contests and whatnot. So head on over here to Seoul City Hall for this Seoul Kimchi Festival over this weekend. A couple other tidbits I want to tell you. Really, this dish, this food here, is so connected to the what South Koreans are all about, because it is such a staple dish here. Believe it or not, the average person consumes here in South Korea up to 25 kilograms of kimchi annually, believe it or not. 25 kilograms. Really, you can have this dish with any meal, breakfast, lunch, or dinner, and it's not just as a side dish, it's used as an ingredient in many other dishes as well. You can have it in a stew, soups. Kimchi fried rice is another very popular dish, as well as kimchi pancakes, and also the nutritional value of this dish. Kimchi is known to have many health benefits. It's loaded with dietary fibers, vitamins, and the main ingredient, what many scientists here believe, is lactic acid bacteria, which is the healthy component in this dish as well. So if you're not in South Korea, head on over to your nearest Korean restaurant to try this side dish here. Some dignitaries are on hand here. This event is hosted by the Seoul Metropolitan Government here. The mayor of this capital city, Park Won-sun, was on hand just a short while ago to attend opening ceremonies. Again, if you're just joining us, The Seoul Kimchi Festival, the 5th annual, under the theme of the title here is Sharing the Warmth on the Day of Seoul's Kimchi Making. We have thousands here gathered. You can see they're all dressed in aprons. They have bandanas on their head. Of course, we want sanitation. And this kimchi that's made is being packed into these styrofoam boxes, which will be distributed to the underprivileged all across the world. So, again, what's going on, what you're seeing here are these volunteers from all walks of life. In fact, we have many corporations that have volunteered for community service to take part in this, and what they're doing is they're taking these innards that have been prepared beforehand and mixing it with this Napa cabbage, which will then be put into these boxes for fermentation before they are distributed. Again, here, this event is sponsored by the Seoul Metropolitan Government. These ingredients are provided by the Seoul Council on Social Welfare, including the Seoul Food Bank, as well as many other private corporate sponsors as well. Many volunteers here taking part as well. Let's try to find someone to interview here. Let's try to see what they think. Come follow me here. Again, bear with me. There's a lot of people here. Let's try to get someone. We don't want to interrupt anyone making this kimchi. We'll walk up on this way here. Again, if you're just joining us, we're here at the 5th annual Seoul Kimchi Festival here in Seoul, South Korea. What you're seeing is thousands of volunteers here gathered to make up to 165 tons of this South Korean staple. On Sunday is when the big Guinness Book of World Records officials will be here to certify this as the largest gathering of gimjang, the process of making this South Korean staple. Some tidbits here. Back in 2017, 120 tons were created. In 2016, 60 tons. The goal this year is 165 tons. The Guinness World Record would be the current record right now is just under 3,000 individuals making kimchi at one time. Hopefully, if they achieve that record this year, they will surpass 3,000, and that is the goal here. Again, I wish I could describe the smells that are really encumbering this festival that's taking place. Truly an amazing sight. Here in South Korea, it's hard not to eat a meal without this, but to see this process and to see everyone's faces here, they're really enjoying this process. And this activity of making gimjang is a communal activity. Historically, kimchi has been around ever since for thousands of years, according to history. But funny enough, the spicy type is not the traditional type. Originally, before peppers were introduced to Korea, back at the start of time here, around 300 AD, back in the Three Kingdoms period is when kimchi was first documented. Back then, it wasn't the spicy variety. Peppers began coming into the country around the 17th century until what we see here. But again, this South Korean staple is truly a sight to see. Luckily, the weather is cooperating with us. Hundreds of volunteers are also helping this festival run smoothly. You can also come here if you get a chance to visit. You see these pavilions and exhibitions that show you really the history of kimchi, where different regions also have varying types. More northern regions, because of the cooler temperatures, will tend to have blander tastes and variants of the dish. The more south you go, in hotter regions, you'll see more saltier varieties here as well. So again, we're here at the 5th annual Seoul Kimchi Festival. It's very crowded here. If you have a chance to stop by, come visit Seoul Square in front of Seoul City Hall over the weekend, where you can really watch how kimchi is made. And it's an amazing sight. If you're logged on watching this on our various platforms, feel free to post your questions. I'll try to get some answers if you have any questions about what kimchi is. There are hundreds of varieties. What you're seeing, the variety made here is the Napa cabbage type here. But everyone is in good spirits here watching this process be made. I'm going to try and find someone to ask. Everyone seems busy trying to get through this 165 tons. Hard to fathom how much that really is, but they are being packed in these white styrofoam boxes. I'm going to head outside here. Let's show you what else you can experience here at this Kimchi Festival. Look how they're being packed into these boxes, and what you will see that as fermentation takes place, this lactic acid is spewed outside from the fermentation, and these bags, these plastic bags, it's important not to pack them too tightly because they will start to inflate, and that's a common occurrence, especially when you try to deliver these packs of kimchi through courier or through the mail. What happens is a lot of times if you pack them too tightly, they will explode. So that's one of the precautionary events you need to watch out for as well. Let's go on over this way, and I want to show you just how it's decorated. You'll see a big Napa cabbage model over there. That's really the most popular type of kimchi. And if you look here, look at this big earthenware pot behind me. What that is, it's known as a hangari here in Korea. And traditionally, kimchi was placed before refrigeration technology was around and really widespread. You would see families put their kimchi to ferment in these pots that are placed under earth to so it doesn't freeze during the winter months, but also it helps the fermentation process going. And of course, you can come here. There are families relaxing here, enjoying the sun. Luckily, the weather is cooperating here on this early November afternoon here in Seoul, South Korea. The 5th annual Seoul Kimchi Festival. If you're just joining us here on our various CGTN platforms, correspondent Shane Hahm with you, giving you all the sights and sounds of this festival that's taking place here in Seoul, South Korea. Again, gimjang is on the UNESCO Intangible Cultural Heritage List because it's such a communal event and activity for South Koreans over the past centuries. Really, it's a part of intertwined in the culture here. Because before the winter months come, what families will do is they'll gather in neighborhoods or in rural areas, and this is when kimchi is shared amongst families. Personally, our family didn't make kimchi, but a lot of our aunts and uncles would distribute it amongst our family. So it's a great time to really talk about and prepare for the winter months traditionally. So that's what we're seeing here, and really this is what we're hoping is a Guinness World Record for most number of people preparing kimchi at one time and one sitting here. So again, if you have any questions, please post them on our various CGTN websites. The Seoul Kimchi Festival here in Seoul, South Korea. Again, up to 6,000 people are expected to gather here for what is hopefully a new world record for most number of people making kimchi. So I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you enjoyed the sights and sounds of what's happening here in the heart of South Korea, 5th annual Seoul Kimchi Festival. If you want more information, feel free to contribute and to participate on our various platforms. But in the meantime, I'll leave it there. Again, continue to join CGTN for various live events taking place. On that note, I'll sign off here. So please stay tuned to CGTN. Shane Hahm here at the Seoul annual Seoul Kimchi Festival, signing off.
자, 지금 뭐 김장 당구기에 어려움이 없으세요? 좀 뭐 너무 열심히 하고 계시는데 여러분 웃으면서 하세요. 너무 심각해 보이세요, 표정들이. 활짝 웃으시면서 옛날 우리 어른들이